All right, Christina, thanks for being here today. And let's see,
Thanks
it's
for having
September.
me.
It's September and it's 2022 when we're making this recording. And what we're
Mhm.
going to talk about today is what keeps us as humans from reaching a goal or a dream that we have. And I heard
Oh,
a
that.
shocking statistic yesterday
Ooh, I gotta
where
hear it.
a guy who's been a therapist for 30 years, he
Mhm.
said there's a statistic he read about diets.
Mhm.
95% of people who go on a diet to lose weight,
Mhm.
95% only get relief for a period of time, then they gain the weight back.
Mm.
That's a pretty bad statistic.
That is a pretty bad statistic. Now, there's a whole lot of things into the psychology of dieting that I think plays into it, our relationship with food and what does it mean to us and how are we using food to maybe comfort ourselves. So I think there's a lot of other elements there too. Um, but in general, how do you get yourself unstuck? Or why do we stay in things when we don't want to stay in them?
Right. Such a good question because I remember, oh, I can remember so many things. I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like it. It was a job,
Mm-hmm.
but I kept
Mm-hmm.
going. I have to do
Mm-hmm.
it. I have to get the money. I have to do this job. It's irresponsible not to. Same thing with relationships. I was like, I can't leave it. I can't. I had all these reasons that I was
Yes, all
telling
these
myself
reasons.
I needed to stay, but then my
Right.
heart was telling me I needed to go.
Needed to go, but you were afraid to go. And I
Right.
think underneath that, underneath all of those times when our heart is saying, get out now, it's fear, fear of
It's,
change,
yeah.
fear of unknown, fear of disappointing someone,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
fear of disappointing ourselves, fear of the thing we think we want won't be what it's going to be. So then we'll be disappointed in it. Underneath it is fear.
Right. And so the only way to go toward a dream or a goal you have, even if it's weight loss
Mm-hmm.
or getting a new job, is to move forward while you're having fear.
Yes. Yes. It's like, bravery is not the absence of fear. It's doing something in spite of the fear.
Right. And I think we can all remember something we did in our life, maybe as a little tiny kid,
Mm-hmm.
or as a younger person that we were terrified to do, yet
Mm-hmm.
it worked out great.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe it was even thrilling after we did it because we had to get through that. Oh no, I can't, I can't, I can't. And then
Right.
you
And
do it
then
anyway.
you do it and you can. Absolutely. I mean, I think the sad thing is as we get older, because they have done studies on this too, that as people get older, they tend to be more fearful.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, that as we get older, we tend to be more fearful. Now, the study talked about how some of that could be related to as we get older. Maybe we find we have more physical limitations or more afraid of getting hurt than when we were younger. But yes, this is why you will have people be more hesitant to try new things maybe when they're older or hesitant to
Mm,
change or hesitant to do that because we do tend to get more fearful as we get older. But I think that again, it is tied to, when we're young, we don't think as much about as our mortality. Young people are famous. When people in their 20s are famous for like being absolutely fearless. Like, I will just go and do this thing and not worry about it. So it's about the balance, right? Because you don't want to be reckless, but you also don't want to be shortchanging yourself on your dreams, on your life, because once we leave this world, this life is over. That's it. So, whatever you didn't face or deal with, I'm a movie buff. So, there's an old movie from the 1990s with Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep called Defending Your Life. And the premise was that he had his character, spoiler alert, but the movie starts with it. And he dies and he goes up to like this intermediary place. Like before you can go on to heaven, you have to do like a life review, and it has to show that you got past your fears. That's the big thing. Like if you basically got past your fears in life to do what your soul's purpose was, then you can move on. And if you didn't get past your fears, you have to go back and try again.
What a cool premise for a movie.
It was. And this was when Meryl Streep was getting away from crying for a little while and doing a lot of comedies. She is funny. She can make you laugh and cry.
She is a great actress.
She's a great actress, deserving of every Academy Award she ever got. But it was a cool idea. How, because, you know, when we think of like the whole heaven and moving, but it really was getting past the fears. And Albert Brooks, you know, did a great job with that too, because nobody can play fearful neuroticism like he can.
Right. And I've heard this is true. People that are hospice workers or work with end-of-life patients in any way, they say that most people on their deathbed regret not being brave enough, not doing the things they were called to do. They don't regret working too much, but they regret everything else.
Yes.
So especially in our society that says, go to work, make money, buy your new car, have a nice house, and all the really things that we live in this material world, instead of go on that vacation with your beloved.
Yes.
Get that dog you always wanted to have. Go learn how to play the drums when you're an old person.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. So what's one thing you've learned lately that you had to get over fear to do?
Oh, let's see. So many things. But I think, ironically, when you and I started teaming up to do these, one of my fears was putting myself out there. Because I've always tended to be a bit of an introverted extrovert. Like I love people, I love talking to people, but the idea that I've never felt comfortable being completely out there. So getting comfortable with that. And it's funny because once I'm doing it, I'm loving it. Like I love our conversations.
Yeah.
But getting over that initial, oh, do I look okay on camera? And will people care what I have to say? And, you know, all of those, and really those insecurities that play in our head that are really just mental noise.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Because the conversations, in fact, I now live with a woman who she chatters to herself out loud when she's working. And she's really cruel to herself. She'll say, oh, that was stupid, you idiot. Would you do it like that for? That was dumb. And one day I said to her, I said, honey, you're really cruel to yourself when you're talking to yourself, because I hear it. You say it out loud. And she goes, oh, yeah, I know. I should be better. But I think every one of us has that inner critic. We don't always say those words out loud so people can hear them, but we're constantly, especially women, shaming ourselves about our body or our age or our hair color, or what are we saying to ourselves that helps us live in that fearful state, instead of saying, wow, what would I love to do today?
Yes. I mean, all that time we waste being afraid, where if we stopped being afraid, imagine what we could do. And I think you're right. Women, especially, from the time I feel like we're way too young, from the time we're barely teenagers, we're getting this message not to like ourselves, not to like our bodies, not to, to be constantly comparing ourselves when we shouldn't be comparing ourselves at all.
Even I've seen some people training their little children, like, you're so pretty, wear that, go hug your uncle, give him a kiss, all that, you better do this or better do that to be loved. So it's no wonder that we're trying to be just the perfect person. But it's impossible. I like the fact that there are young kids now who are saying thick is cool.
Yeah,
Have you heard
I
that?
love that. I haven't heard that, but I approve of that message.
So they're like, I've got thick thighs. I've got a thick body. I'm cool.
I love
And
that.
unlike when I was a young kid, it wasn't
Mhm,
cool if you were a woman, if you had,
mhm,
biceps that people could
mhm,
see. It was like, oh, strong muscles. Nobody's going to want that. And now, of course, being fit and having muscles that are
mhm.
defined is totally acceptable. In fact, looked up to in some groups. So,
Exactly.
what is the perfect woman's body now? Who
Mm,
knows? Is it
who
thick? Is it
knows?
strong? Is it thin? Is it tall, short, fat? Whatever you are
Right.
is how you should love yourself, right?
Exactly. Because you are perfect for you. You don't have to be anyone else's version of what they think you should be. And I think that's a big thing that keeps us stuck because we're worried, well, what is somebody going to say? If I leave this job that is, quote, making me good money, what are they going to think? Oh, but no, I don't want to do this. I want to go pursue this real passion.
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to think of me if I do that?
Right. So if you had let's say you have a hypothetical client and they
Mm-hmm,
really have a big dream, but they're
mm-hmm,
afraid.
mm-hmm.
How would you help them? Would you just look at one fear at a time and kind of talk them out of it or
Yeah.
help them through it?
Actually, I have done that with many clients because many
Uh-huh.
clients have come to me quite unhappy. Like I joked one time with a friend, people don't call up a therapist or coach and say, I am just so happy today. I had to call to tell you that. So
Right.
so
Right.
usually when people contact me, it's because something in their life isn't working and they want it to be. So
Mm-hmm.
absolutely a lot of what I've dealt with are clients who, they they want this dream but they have no clue how to do it because they feel like they can't.
Right.
So that is actually where what you and I do is so vital because we're not in that life, so we're not feeling that pressure they're feeling from all these external forces. So we can step in and say, oh, wait a minute, why can't you change this and go into this field? Well, they say, well, then no, because it would mean I'd have to go back to school or I'd have to leave this job. I'm like, okay, what's stopping you from doing that? And they're like, okay, well, no, I can't because okay. So what? So you're saying, okay, so what would stop you from doing what you're doing part time while you're looking for that? I'm like, well, then I can't. So there's always these reasons why they can't. So part of what I do is help show them again the possibilities because they're just seeing narrow tunnel vision. This is all I can do. And I'm like, is this little door over here? You can go through that. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
open. You can go through
Yeah.
that.
Plus, I think that both of us, and I listened to someone say it hilariously yesterday, the field of therapy and the field of coaching is just something
Mhm.
we humans made up in the last couple hundred years. So what is it? People say, what is the difference between coaching and therapy? And she's like, I'm just going to make up an answer because we made up these modalities anyway.
Mhm.
But her opinion was people go to a therapist because there's a pain they want to take care of. They're in
Mhm.
pain. And
Mhm.
people go to coaching because they more like there's a dream they want to have.
Mm.
And we're pulling them toward their dream and not necessarily, I mean, maybe there's pain in there that we help them with, but it's not the main focus. Like, I have pain,
Mhm.
I need to fix this.
Mhm.
They go to you for that. They don't come to me for that. And
Mhm.
mostly they want to, I don't know. How would
Yeah.
I get off on that sidetrack? But yes, we can see the people in their most highest potential.
Right. Yes.
We can see them as whole, complete, and perfect, just the way they are right now.
Yes.
And we can
Yes.
see that if they really would love to do another job, they can do it.
Mhm.
If they really would like to learn a new hobby, they can do it. If
They
they
can
want to
do
move
it.
to a new city, they can do it. They can do
They
anything
can
they
do it.
dream up.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I mean, I of course I'm aware of realities in terms of, if somebody's supporting a family and they're worried about, I mean, yes, these are realities. But even within those harsh realities, there are still options that you haven't considered.
Right
and it's
on.
hard to consider them when you're operating from a fear mindset. If I do this, it's the end of the world. My favorite thing to do with people, again, movie buff. I love those scenes in movies where they're trying to deactivate the bomb and they're like, is it the red wire? Is it the blue wire? The red wire, the blue wire? And they're down to 5 seconds before they got to pick which wire or everything's going to blow up. So I always say to my clients, rarely are the decisions you're making down to a red wire, blue wire situation. The whole thing is not going to blow up if you make this choice. Yeah, you might have some difficulties. It may be a challenge, but everything's not going to blow up, because part of what keeps people stuck with the fear is they're catastrophizing it. They're thinking, oh my goodness, I leave this job, everything's going to blow up. I leave this relationship, my whole life is going to blow up. I tell this person how I feel, everything's going to blow up. No. And I always leave room for, you got those exceptions, but the majority of the time, unless you're leaving the mafia, if you leave a job, you probably won't die.
Right. Oh, that's funny that you had the mafia in. You're such an East Coaster.
I am.
You probably won't die unless you're trying to leave the mob. Is that, and can you tell me that if you're in the mob and I'm your therapist?
Well, in that case, I don't want to know because I don't want to die. So I'm like, if you are, you just keep that to yourself, okay?
All right, pretend like we've never discussed it ever,
Yes.
ever. But yeah, so I've spent many years of my life, I realized, running with fear, choosing things out of fear, deciding out of fear, and it takes a toll on your body and mind. I mean, if you look back on having a fearful time in your life, you can look back and go, oh, that was exhausting when you're out of it. But how do you help people really get out of it? Like, how do you help them find the other door they can walk through?
It is a process. It's really like, just like you deal with any phobias and fears. Like if you have somebody, for instance, psychology, we talk about the idea of systematic desensitization, where when you're dealing with a phobia, you look at all aspects of what you're afraid of, and you teach them how to relax and think about it in a way where they're putting themselves in an ever calmer state until they reach the thing that they have to do. So it's a similar idea where I break it down. The thing you want, and then what are all these things you're afraid of? And then we break it down one by one. And then we deal with each fear one by one. And whether it's teaching to relax, whether it's teaching in front. And I've also, been there to do the proverbial hand holding where they have to write that difficult email and be like, can you be here with me while I write this? I'm like, absolutely. So sometimes it also is having someone there with you to say, you got this. It's okay. You got this.
Right. And it might be helpful. I'm in a couple of mastermind groups. It might be helpful to be in a group that could also support you in this way. I mean, I know people are in 12-step groups, mastermind groups, prayer partner groups. And so just having someone else believe you can do it, besides that your one coach or your one therapist or your mommy.
Right.
If other people believe you can do it, you have the energy behind you to bust past your fear. And I think for most people, you can say, I know you're afraid, but imagine that there's think of one thing you could do. Just one little thing maybe that you could do to move toward that. What could you do? And so in little tiny baby steps, it's not like you're jumping off the cliff to do the big dive, but you're getting closer and closer and closer to what you can do. And then I think chunking it into little steps is helpful for people too.
I agree. I totally agree. I think it's very helpful. And that's actually what we do also when you're dealing with phobias and fears. We break it down into little chunky steps. Like even when you're teaching someone a new skill, we talk about the idea of shaping, where you teach them successive approximations to the desired behavior. So like if you're teaching someone to swim, first you blow your bubbles. We're not going to make you swim the ocean right away. First you blow your bubbles, put your face in the water. You work your way up.
Oh my God, I'm not a very good swimmer. I can remember bubble blowing for multiple summers as a kid in this really cold lake. Face floating, I was pretty good at that. Bubble blowing, face floating. We got to back floating. Then I had to do the swimming part. Summer's over.
It's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but you're right. If you have this right support, you'd be surprised how well you can swim. It's all about the support.
Right on. And I also think that once you do something that's frightening to you, you go out and do it. And then you're like, ooh, I did that. And you can go out and do it again.
Exactly.
Go, oh, I did that. You can go out and do it again and again and again until finally it's not the thing that scares you so much you can't do it. It's the thing that you can do now.
Yes, exactly. Because once you've actually gotten over that hump, because the fear is telling you you can't do this. The fear is telling you that this is you're going to get hurt either physically or emotionally. You're going to fail. It's going to be horrible. So the fears are the lies we tell ourselves about why we can't do it. And then once we do it, we've exposed the lies for what they are.
The fears are the lies we tell ourselves. That's quotable.
I know. I'm like, I'm keeping that. You know, sometimes something will come to my head. I'm like, I do like how that sounds.
Because true, I mean, even if you go into a total spiritual realm of we're in 5D, we're connected to the everything, we're all one. You're like, fear is a lie because love is everything.
Exactly. Love is everything. Love is all there is. Love is all around. Love is everything. You know, did you ever see that movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze?
I love that movie.
I love that movie. So you know when spoiler warning for those of you who have not seen it. I tell you, we should have like a movie playlist at the ends of these because I'm going to be quoting them. If you want to see the movies that Cristina referred to, you could get a deal. They'll be with Amazon. Like anytime anyone clicks on your thing, you get a little kickback.
I'll have to work on that later.
Yeah. So that scene where, you know, when his ghost is finally ready to move on, because, you know, he's brought his killer to justice. He's said his goodbye to her. So, you know, he has the light. And for the first time, you see him as like this ethereal spirit. And he goes, Molly, the love you have inside, you take it with you. And I love that because that's what I believe. The love that's in here, that's forever. That's why when people are on their deathbed, that's what they're regretting. That's why they're not regretting, you know, gee, I should have earned more money. Or they're not regretting, gee, I should have spent more on the job. They're regretting, why didn't I tell that person I loved them?
Exactly. Why didn't I? Yeah. Why didn't I make up with this person I was having a feud with? Why didn't I eat that ice cream even though I thought I was fat?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we're going back to those things that made us happy, that were primal, that were good. And that's why, you know, when somebody has like a crisis or something, the first thing they're thinking is, oh, I'm just going to go run to the office. No, that's not their first thought. You know, okay, like all right, I'm sorry, I'm just on my movie rant today. Did you ever see the Michael Keaton movie, My Life?
I don't think so.
Okay. I swear we're going to have a movie list after this thing. So it was, I forget what year it came out, but it was Michael Keaton and Nicole Kidman played his wife. Spoiler alert, again, for those who haven't seen it. So it's about this man. Now it starts with the idea that he basically gets a terminal cancer diagnosis. And his wife is pregnant. And he's like, getting this nose. Now, before he got this diagnosis, he'd been very much, type A personality, workaholic, that sort of thing. So it starts out with him wanting to create a video catalog or a video diary, as it were, of his life for his child who he's not sure he's going to live to see. But what it turned, so it involves so much more than that. It's about a man learning to appreciate life and the people in it in a way he never did before.
Mm,
and
beautiful.
it is beautiful and sad and made me cry. And like there's a scene where he goes to an acupuncturist to try to see if he can get healed or whatever, and the acupuncturist says to him, something, I forget the exact words, but something like, you need to heal this inside you, like the more like the emotional stuff. Like he's been holding on to anger, he's been holding on to things that were not good for him, and it's about him learning to release that.
Okay, 3 movies so far we're gonna have to mention in the show notes. I love it. I've been looking for things. I've been watching a lot of Netflix just to like relax at night, and I'm kind of done with all the things I wanted to watch. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll look for these movies.
So I'm a movie buff. I use a lot of movie references. It's part of my makeup because I've been watching movies forever. So I joke with clients when they start with me. I'm like, just so you know, you'll probably get movie references as we come along.
You're gonna have to. Do you give your clients watching the movie as homework?
Yeah, well, it's funny because what I love about movie references is it gives a visual image, especially if it's a movie that they've seen or well, it does give that visual image better than the words can in many ways. And this is one of the reasons why I'm movie buff, because movies are very powerful. And in terms of if a compelling story or well-acted thing, it touches the soul, and it really can highlight things in a way that sometimes we can't always feel it highlighted. I'm toying with the idea. I had bought the domain name Cinema Chick, and I hadn't done with it anything, but I'm actually thinking of doing something with that. So stay tuned for a movie, an homage to movies.
I love it.
And their psychological powers.
So Cinema Chick, if you wanted to tell someone a movie about overcoming fear, does anything pop into your mind besides these 3 movies?
So many movies have dealt with that. I mean, I guess it's such a primal emotion.
Yeah.
Because it's really because so many movies really start with the hero or the heroine being afraid to leave the life, because it's that whole call to adventure, right? All great stories start with the hero's journey, where the person is in a particular life, but because of a choice they're making, they're taking the call to adventure. It's what changes their life.
Right.
So it's anything, you could even look at, a movie musical buff, Maria von Trapp, the character leaves the convent to become governess, and she's afraid, because she's nervous. She's been in the convent, most of her life. She's preparing to be a nun, and that she's very rambunctious, and so they feel she needs a little time maybe away, and so they send her to be a nanny to the Von Trapp family, and she sings this song to help her deal with her fear. I have confidence in sunshine, I have confidence in rain, and she just sings this song to bolster her courage. So that leaving her life, and then most of you have probably seen The Sound of Music, so I don't think I'm spoiling it. And then realizing when she's fallen in love with this man and basically not going back to the life she thought she was going to have, and the fear of leaving the safety of the convent and admitting her feelings and admitting that this is what she wants.
Right.
So, so many movies. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll end it with this concept, since we're talking about movies. I just saw for the first time in my life at an outdoor theater, E.T.
I love that movie.
Everybody said, "What? You've never seen it?" I said, "No, I
Yes,
never saw it. I
seriously.
never saw it before." I saw E.T. for the first time, and I had recently, in the last year or two, read and listened to an interview by D. Wallace. She plays the mom in
Mm,
E.T. She's written a couple of spiritual books on manifestation. And
really?
yeah, and after E.T., the rest of her acting career was as a actress in horror movies.
Yes, I remember that. She was in a werewolf movie, really freaky.
She loves acting in horror movies, and she believes that the fear that you feel when you're watching a horror movie is somehow cathartic, and it makes you feel better because you get over that fear while you're watching this thing, like in the safety of your house. You're not really going to get eaten by a werewolf, or you're not really going to get killed by the axe murderer. And I'm thinking, what? I don't really get that, but I think anyone who's listening to this in the future will go, horror movies, yes, love them,
Yes, but
because it's connected to the whole fear conversation.
yes, it totally is. Well, I know we're getting off, but I'll just say this, Stephen King, I loved his biography. He wrote like an autobiography on writing, and his stories spook me, but his book on writing was excellent. So it was sort of like no, telling writers the journey, but also his journey. And
Right.
he basically spoke of the fact that pretty much the reason he writes about horror is because he was a man riddled with fear. And writing the horror stories were a way of confronting his fear.
Wow.
Yes, that from the horror master Stephen King.
Wow. Okay, so everybody, face your fear, do one tiny thing at a time to get beyond it, because one little tiny thing at a time will feel safe in the moment, and find a group or a support person.
Sounds like a plan. And when you want to
Thanks,
see a little
Cristina.
inspired, yeah. Thank you, Dee. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye. Bye-bye.